If you compare it to the casual game chart, now there isn't really a definitive source for the casual game chart. This is from casualcharts.com. And you can get from various different sources. You know, there isn't that one place that you can go to. But no matter which source you pick, you get pretty much the same answer, which is this is all original IP, pretty much, apart from one, which is Risk. So what you're getting is really two totally different markets. Now, in the 1980s, the computer games industry looked exactly like this. You know, it was all original IP, and it changed. There's a reason that EA bought Playfish, you know, to bring EA's licenses to casual market. There's a reason all the big operators are raising money now to buy licenses. And it's the difference, really, who wants to play championship golf when you could play something like Tiger Woods online. So let's say you've got your idea, and maybe or maybe not, it needs a brand. It doesn't really matter as long as you've got your idea. You know, how are you going to fund it? So unfortunately, you've got a double-edged issue currently. The publishers are finding it really tough. You know, they're investing in their biggest franchises with less risk. You say, well, it's fine, I'll go to somebody like a Big Point or somebody else equivalent. The problem is with these guys is they are used to buying finished games from places like China and Korea, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not really used to this whole, let's do a design document, a milestone plan, and sort of measure it through on a monthly basis, you know. It's just not happening there either. So you really have to look for alternative sorts of finance. And where we spent most of our time 2 years ago was on German IP funds. And German IP funds say if you had an idea, like an Auto Club Revolution, they would actually invest in that as an IP and take their return from that. And we got really close on that on a couple of occasions, but it always seemed to be at the very last minute something went wrong. So what we did is we started to talk to VCs, venture capital companies. And currently, about the first time in the whole of the time I've been in this industry, they're interested in talking to game developers and content providers. The guys that we did our deal with, Prime Technology Ventures, put a lot of money into Global Collect. They bought that company for 17 million euros. Now, Global Collect actually do the microtransaction processing, so like your credit cards, your PayPal, and all this sort of thing. And within 18 months, it sold it for 200 million. And what they'd seen is this amazing growth in like an exponential curve in player transactions. So as I said, the next time we want to be into the games, next time we want to be involved in the games industry, we want to do it on the content side of the business. So how did we attract, or how do you attract VCs? Basically, you attract VCs with carrot jam. Now, if you bear with us on this, back in the days where Britain ruled the world before we handed it over to America, and before America hands it on to China, is we used to get around in boats a bit during the Hogarth era. And the problem is all the crews tended to succumb to scurvy, which is a vitamin C deficiency. And they realized they didn't know why, but they said for whatever reason, if people had carrot jam, they would not actually succumb to scurvy. So what they did is they took carrot jam on board, and carrot jam tastes absolutely vile. And basically took carrot jam on board, and they only give it to the officers. So they said, so all the crew on board knew that the officers had carrot jam. Within a very short space of time, people would kill to have carrot jam, the seamen. And if you did something particularly good, you got a little bit of carrot jam. And what happened is pretty soon everybody on the boat was eating carrot jam and really loving it. And you know, and what we did is we put something on our website, and it was like a little story that I think Todd wrote for us. And it says, Darren Jobling's just got off the phone from a court in VC, and he's not really interested in doing a deal. And that was the biggest defining factor in why VCs came to us. You literally, every VC, not every VC of course, but a huge number of VCs rang up and said, oh, I've read this on your website, and I'm not really very happy. You should be talking to us. We're not like all these other people. And really, that's the way, if you're interested in attracting them, be a little bit clever about it, not right in their faces, and et cetera, et cetera. But you need to pick the right partner. It needs to be the so-called smart money that people talk about. Prime Technology Ventures knew a lot about the free-to-play market. To be honest, we knew a lot about producing great driving games, and it was a case of bringing the two together. So let's say you've got your idea, you've got your money, but you need to start building a team. And what you need to do when you're building your team is recruit untrainable people. Now, you might think I've took a little bit of a moment of madness, but I'll explain. Somebody actually in the office says, "Is that a picture of you and Brian when you were younger?" Which I took as a compliment. So basically, because I had hair. So basically, I think there's 5 key skills when you're recruiting somebody that you can't train them to do. I think with the likes of Mark Schulman, I could retire now, buy a drum kit, go around to his house and wherever he lives in Los Angeles, and he could teach me drums, and I would never, ever, ever get as good as him because he's got natural talent. And I think talent's one of them, but I think there's 5 other areas, really, when you're looking to recruit people, that you should really aim to do. So basically, when you are recruiting, you need to get your best people to recruit. If you're giving them a mark out of 10, your 9 out of 10 employees should be doing the recruitment. If you get a 4 or a 5 out of 10 employee doing your recruitment, you're going to get 4 or 3 out of 10 employees. To a 5 out of 10 person, a 9 out of 10 person is pretty scary. So you need to make sure you've got the right people. So what are these skills? Now this is an interesting, this is wrong in so many ways. I want to invite this bloke to my kids' parties. So basically, as to talk about just talent, talent's an amazing thing. If you can get somebody who's talented, if they're a natural, it's amazing what you can achieve. If you find somebody with talent, hold on to it and nurture it. The Duracell bunny, energy. How many people do you know in your company that say, "Oh, I've just done this and I'm so tired, I'm exhausted. I went home last night and I just had to collapse because I've done this," and you're looking at 1 page of work. People have got energy. If you want something, do and give it to a busy person. People with energy can really achieve a lot in a short space of time. What's the difference between energy and drive? I think drive is setting a goal, and no matter what happens and what outrageous things happen to you in the process, you keep on going to actually achieve that goal no matter what. Those people are pretty rare. A lot of people give up in the process. W. Bush. I think Mark covered this really well. He talked about positive attitude. And really, I want to talk a little about negative attitude. Negative people change your business. Somebody famously once said to me, "You can't change a negative person, but by hell, they can change you." And that's exactly right, Negative people can be disastrous within teams, And who are the negative people in your company? I'll tell you who the negative people are in your company. So when you get a new employee, they're the welcoming committee. They're the person who walks up and said, "Hello, Carrie, nice to see you here. How are you doing? Yes, I'm glad you've come here today. It's a smashing job. I hope you've got redundancy insurance because things have been tough. The industry's all changing, And how do you tell that they're negative people? Well, you just ask them about their previous employers, What was your last, what were they like? What was IDOS like? Square Enix, I do beg your pardon. What was Square Enix like, And how they perceive their previous employment. And finally, integrity. One of the artists actually did this for me, not at my request. And I think a lot of people think salesmen are people of low integrity. You've just got to have high integrity. Once your integrity's drawn into question once, you can never, ever recover it, And as soon as you actually speak to somebody who lets you down, fine well, they're not a person of high integrity, and they're going to do it again and again and again. A lot of people spend a tremendous amount of time working on weaknesses. There's a huge distance between miserable to mediocre. but there's a relatively small distance between good to great. And I think this is what Mark was talking about later on. If you work with your best people, spend time with your best people, that's when you're going to get the best results. And the most extreme example of this I can think of is Mr. Cowell. He spends no time whatsoever with anybody who isn't going to make him millions. You know, he must spend 99% of his time with the 1% that are going to make him money. I'm not suggesting that you adopt Mr. Cowell as a role model for how to deal with your staff, but basically in most companies, your top performers are virtually ignored. You spend 80% of your time with the 20% who can't get in the morning, who got a sickness or off for this and this sort of thing. What you really need to do is free up your time dealing with those people. You get 80% of your time back, and then spend 80% of your time with your top performers. Schedule some time in your diary. You know the people, everybody knows the people in their company that make a difference. Schedule some time, sit down and talk to them, because they're the people who are going to get you where you want to go. You know, weak people, this obviously isn't me. So, you know, when you're coming into work in the morning, you know, how great is it you're going to have a meeting with your top people and you're going to discuss your latest game that you're going to be doing. How pants is it coming in the morning because you've got a disciplinary hearing, you know? They just drain your energy, your passion, your strength. Unfortunately, you've got to be cruel to be kind. And a lot of people talk about the length of time that you've been there as being an indication. Oh, I've been with the company, like me, I've been with the company 20 years or something like that. The length of tenure doesn't define loyalty. What you do on a daily basis defines loyalty. Somebody could be here for 3 months, but if they're a great performer, they're my most loyal employee, not the person who's maybe been here for 15 years and cashed my paychecks. So what feeds your best people? Feedback. You know, it's the #1 employee gripe. You know, I don't get any feedback. I don't know if I'm doing well. I don't know if I'm doing great. I don't know, whatever, you know. And when you give them feedback, it should be regular. And it should be within a short distance of when the event happened, you know. Be positive in public, but in terms of negativity, if you're going to be negative, you've got to be cruel to be kind, do it in private. And I would say never do it by email. It's the worst form of communication for anything like this. But behaviors that are rewarded get repeated. And I think we're particularly guilty in the games industry for giving what I would call empty feedback, so you don't get any feedback. You don't know if you're doing a good thing, you don't know if you're doing a bad thing, because you get nothing. And ignoring bad behavior just means it's going to get repeated. And I think it's something that's not a once-a-year event. You know, lots of people say, hey, you know, we did an appraisal once a year and we sat down and, hey, well, things are going great. You know, it's not about that. It's about every single day talking to your best people and giving them encouragement. So that's actually me for the time being. And just one last thing I'd like to say is somebody actually said, is this bloke dead? And I hope, I think he's fine. I'm sure he's fine. So Eutechnyx is sponsoring the after drink session, and I'm sure maybe it's not what a lot of people want to do is have another drink, but we're all there. We've got some guys across from Eutechnyx in the US. Come down afterwards, have a drink, and obviously as chairman of GameHorizon, kind of, as chairman of GameHorizon, I'd just like to say thanks everybody, especially thanks to Ian for coming in, and making another good conference. So thank you very much, and I just wonder if anybody had any questions.